All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Services Ops Podcast, where we get into everything people, process, and technology of running a great services business. I'm Chris Souza, head of marketing at Provis. With me, as always, is co-founder, co-host, and CEO of Provis, Mahesh Bakshi. Good day, Mahesh. How are we today?
Fantastic. This is amazing. Yet another amazing day, an amazing episode. I'm particularly very excited for our guest today. He and I go long back. We have lots of great stories to share. We worked together during very critical years of Aptus, which was the fastest growing company in its space back then. So yeah, looking forward to a great chat with you, Ankur.
Yeah, happy to be here and good to see you again, Mahesh and Chris. Thanks for having me. And
Of course.
yeah, we go back and happy to discuss the world of professional services and how it intersects with the rest of the objectives that software companies are trying to drive. Yeah.
Love it. Right. So let's introduce the episode. Let's introduce what we're talking about. So this is our powerhouse guest, Ankur Ahlowalia. He is currently the CEO of Korbyt, the premier omni-channel communications platform. They engage hybrid employees, students, guests, and retail customers. Go to Korbyt.com, check them out. Ankur has held many executive level sales and operations roles, places like SecureAuth, Aptus, Conga CPQ, and Saba. And what's really exciting about this episode today is we have two true blue leaders, CEOs, who have a different perspective on what operations means, what services means to a company, and how it contributes to the overall missions of companies. So we're really excited to dig into your guys' perspectives. And let's just go ahead and start off on Core. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your Korbyt journey, and maybe some operational principles you've learned along the way.
Oh, great. Yeah, Korbyt, it's a legacy company in business 40 years. We are one of the pioneers in digital signage technology. We're backed by private equity, and over the last 5 years, we've transformed the company from a digital signage software to a omni-channel workplace experience platform where we can engage various audiences, employees, customers, student, guests, and so on, with multi-channel approach, reaching them, targeting them, engaging them. And then the platform enables a lot of analytical capabilities to measure the engagement so that we can double down, or our enterprise customers can double down on strategies that are working for the audiences. We are backed by private equity, Clearhaven Partners out of Boston. And it's been an interesting journey. My first phase, I've been in the company about 4 years. The first 3 odd years was transforming this company to a cloud software platform, which we successfully did. Migrated a lot of our customers over, and professional service is a big part of that, right? And migrations are never easy. It's actually the toughest things to do. A lot of companies fail at that. Fortunately for us, great team, good process systems, and people. We were able to lift and shift about 300 large enterprise customers, very, very big marquee names. And then from there, grow the business, acquiring new customers and prospects. And one thing we also do very well here is we get these customers live, and if they're happy and live, then they unlock more opportunities for our platform to be adopted. So PS is a big part of our business, a very important part of our business, and yeah, I'd love to share some more thoughts on that topic.
Yeah, that's great. Lifting and shifting 300 customers. Let's go ahead and get straight into this level of PS, and Mahesh, you as well. As I mentioned before, that requires a lot of coordination between different groups, and we see it all the time. Provis, between sales and PS and finance and IT. How do you as CEOs want to see these groups working together? What do you see as red flags from your perspective, or green flags?
I can go first. Yeah, I think getting everybody aligned on the same objectives is critical. I mean, sales is coin operated, right? So if you don't have the right incentives, they can actually inhibit, some of the things that the PS team is trying to do. So in our perspective, there were 4 or 5 groups that have to come together, especially on migrations. That is our product team, professional services team, our customer success team, and obviously sales, all surrounding it. Lifting and shifting a very old on-prem product and moving to cloud requires you to have a very good, deep understanding of their install, how are things working, and it's a change. It's a big change for the customer because you also have to convince them to change their processes as they move to a new platform, and that's never easy. And so a lot of our customers have taken time, as we go through the process, they put in the POC labs, get adjusted to it, and then if there are gaps in our products, for example, that the old product have, and we give them a roadmap that how we can adjust it, and so it's a tough lift and ship. Some cases we're able to move them as quickly as 3 to 6 months. Some cases it's taken 18 months because these are big banks, financial institutions, consumer goods companies, and they have their processes to follow. Security plays a big role, the CISO's organization in these accounts, to make sure as they're moving to the cloud, you have to pass a lot of gates and stuff, certification. So it's been a pretty interesting process, and we learned a lot too. Sometimes we misscoped at times, and it happens. You just scope creep happens, and how you adjust with that. Some cases we had to just do what's right for the customer because we wanted them on our platform. In other cases, we had to have an honest conversation. These are things now you're asking that are not in the scope, and how we adjust with it. But yeah, team effort all around, and definitely not easy to do migrations. Much easier to do new logo installs, to be honest with you, than migrations. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's absolutely something that we all have experienced, Ankur. I think the other thing I'm interested to kind of see what your take is on this, which is, I did 3 predictions. One of the prediction was the unification of how you sell software and services, or hardware and services together, if you are in that kind of a business.
We are. Yeah.
And we have a lot of wartime stories to share, which will take forever here. But back in the days, we used to sell software and services separately, and it had its own challenges. But now, customers are becoming smarter. Customers want to understand the total cost of ownership. It's no longer the case that, okay, sell me the software, let the implementation and other services that you're providing, let them come later. I need, customers want to understand everything upfront. Like, what is my total cost of ownership? How long will it take? What's the customization, and so on and so forth. And this is where the collaboration obviously is so critical between all of the involved parties, like sales, pre-sales, delivery, CXOs, finance, all of that. But in all of this, there's another important factor that plays a role in decision making, which is, what are the key metrics that you are tracking to know that the deal is really profitable and the deal makes sense for you, for your customers, for all the stakeholders, right? And there's no better leader than you, who has such a breadth of experience, right from leading a phenomenal sales ops organization at Aptus to what you're doing at Korbyt. So tell our audience and talk to us more about your transformation journey at Aptus, which was so phenomenal, and how basically that led to so many amazing things that you have done at Korbyt, and what is that?
Appreciate it. Yeah. No, definitely before moving into the CEO role, before that I was a CRO as well. I think my sales ops background really helped me. Because what happens is when you are in sales ops and you're looking at data, you get a very good understanding of how everything's flowing, right? From lead to op, and then post-op service support, and so on. And with Aptus, I certainly, Mahesh and I and many others, got a chance to see what a rocket ship looks like when it takes off so rapidly. And then you have to quickly, tape things up, patch things up, and then at the same time, put together processes. This stuff doesn't break as the company keeps scaling. Through my experience in sales ops, I know exactly in the sales process where we could optimize. PS should be entering in discussions, for example, or sales engineers and PS and other members of the team. So it's been a big learning process. What Mahesh said is spot on. We came from a world, sell the order form MSA software first, PS comes second, recipe for disaster. Because your customer satisfaction is all over the place. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So we have all transformed itself, that PS is part of the sales process. Statement of works need to be clearly mapped out, scoped. But they need to come in with the sales team at the right time. If you bring them too early, it probably is a waste of efficiency. So at the time where the customer is getting serious, you pass demo, now they're getting serious in your product. Maybe it's still a competitive situation where in our case, mostly it is. And then PS teams, how they scope and make them feel comfortable that we can execute becomes super important. And then as the deal closes, that knowledge transfer into actually the guys that are implementing the product and then support, all of that need to be tightly connected. So people process systems become very, very important. We live all in CRM, Salesforce. So very heavy users of Salesforce, even our PS info, maybe we don't have a coding system, which I'll talk to Mahesh about. We're getting to a certain size where we will pretty soon. But right now we did some steps, which I learned from Aptus, recording things, estimation, all of those things. And so now we can see when a project finishes, we estimated 100 hours. Did we really deliver 100? Did we go over? Especially in fixed price projects, you have to eat that up. I know we pad it at times, but those are things now the data is showing, and we're getting better and better and better at scoping and our experience with it.
Yeah. No, that's great. And related to that, you lived in the world of kind of a fast growing startup, which was Aptus, and as the ops leader, as a sales leader, you were constantly watching a set of metrics, and then you went to Korbyt, and then that was a PE-led firm.
Yes.
And there are different set of metrics now, but at the end of the day, there is both are fast growing businesses, and when you think of this matrix, there are certain things that matters to startup world or fast growing startup owned by VCs versus a fast growing startup owned by the PE firms. What are the stark differences in the matrix? But followed by matrix, it's a two-set question. So what are the stark differences you have seen in the matrix? But also related to that matrix, what are some of the kind of decisions or those metrics leading to some sort of decision making, maybe optimal, suboptimal, doesn't matter, but different decision making process and collaboration process in those two journeys that you have been through?
No, that's spot on, Mahesh. I mean, back in the day, ARR multiples is what everybody talked about. So you're very driven then by ARR, and you're trying to maximize ARR, maybe at times sacrificing your PS margins and so on with it. Those are some of the ways a lot of companies are doing it. It's dramatically changed now. I think software companies, at least in the private equity world, rule of 40 how you operate a company, which is a way to show that you steady growth, and then financial metrics, especially around EBITDA margins and so on, are net retention rate, renewal rates, all of this stuff adding up. Rule of 40 companies that I can consistently demonstrate, that means they are top brass. They're running it very efficiently. They're growing it steady. You can count on the growth coming up. At the same time, internally, people process systems are very efficient, right? And for us, it's something I'm working on with my private equity and my team, and we actually made a tremendous process improvement, was on the professional services side, right? How do we get utilization of margins and all of these are big factors contributing to EBITDA, and those are the areas that we're working on quite a bit and trying to drive our profitability at the same time growing our ARR, not sacrificing that, but it's a very different way. They're all joined at the hip. I think it's part of the same selling motion, and it's part of the same success that we measured. So PS can no longer be ignored.
What are, if you don't mind sharing, what are some of those activities or actions that you took within the services organization to help increase that efficiency?
Great question. All of the above that you can think of, from estimation processes, how you estimate, to looking at then operationally who's approving, who's got the override. So we tightened our approval processes. Originally it was making sure the estimations were right, a lot focused on that, but now we're paying a lot of focus on profitability. So deal desk is pretty involved. And the deal desk function, actually at a certain size, I think 20 million up, I would recommend people invest. I actually came from that world, because they look at the whole genesis of the deal, software, service, MSA, legal elements. So if they have a termination of convenience, you would price differently versus a committed contract. So they all come together. So that was a big change. More scrutiny, but at the same time, speed of approvals and acceleration is important. Second is we looked at our internal processes. There was a lot of confusion between PS, R&D, and support.
Mhm.
So there were certain things that our PS team could do, and then they needed to reach out to R&D when things get complicated. And then there was support, and support tickets came in. There was a little bit of inefficiency there operationally. So we roles and responsibility clarity, who does what, how is PS measured? I think they were unfairly getting sucked up into a lot of client work that we're a small company, so people jump in, help out support, help out R&D, but it was working against us. So all of that cleanup. And then this year is about focus on goals and objectives. So I had to change the goals of myself and everybody else so that PS all of a sudden became front of mind on top of growing the company. So a lot of different things, all centered around people, process, systems. Systems wise too, we tightened our reporting into a financial ERP, those kind of things. So finance can then report back to our investors and all of the above, little bit improvements. And we've jumped up from pretty much break-even PS to on the path to about 30% margin.
Oh, wow.
Pretty quickly. I've got a great CFO that's come in, and he's got a lot of experience. He led this. So we're seeing improvements, very quick improvements in that area.
That's amazing, Ankur. I mean, going from break even to 30%
Yeah,
in the PS, that does require a lot of discipline, right? I
it
mean,
does.
a lot of our audience
Yeah.
for this episodes are ops leaders, services leaders, sales leaders, and like you said, I think in the startup world, sometimes services is an afterthought, or at least it was, 10 years ago.
It is.
But customer experience and, customers who are consuming services are now, it's not simple. It's not about one type of service like implementation. You are giving so many other different kinds of services like education service and support service and managed service and audit service and service and all that stuff. And usually in the sales process, what happens is if I'm a great salesperson and I have a good tribal knowledge, I will include all kinds of services that I should be selling. But if I'm not, then I'll focus on the two that I know of, and I'll avoid the tough conversation with the customer up front. But you and I have been around for a long time to know that selling services after the fact is a big uphill battle.
It is.
Right. So in your experiences or in your current company and current role, have you kind of implemented or are there like three things or kind of three rules saying that, okay, for sales services, here are the three rules. Here is how we are going to go after the customer. Is there something that comes to mind?
Yeah. My prior companies have done that. We are here in streamlining a little bit better. But Mahesh, before I answer that, product you can touch and feel, right? You can demo it, you can play around with the customer. The services, there's there's nothing to touch and feel. So it's all about expertise. You know it. I mean, you live in that world. So even more reason that should be upfront earlier on the sales process, definitely not getting dragged out. Because at that point it's not fair and you're not going to support the customer. Yeah, back to your question. I think yes, we are getting to a point here, at least I'm looking at some options where a certain product suite in a platform, if you sell, there are certain support and PS and support packages that get more tightly aligned versus other use cases where the complexity. We're also looking at which use cases fixed price is a better way to go versus T&M, those kind of things. But it's something I'm in the middle of. I can't share a lot, but exactly along those lines. It's a lot of benefit to the customer. They get it better if you can present in a way cohesively, SaaS subscription and PS support packages. They understand it better, and that's the key, because you want to differentiate also on ease of doing business at times.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. Ease of doing business, because on one side we talk about ARR growth, renewals, and total kind of TCV, which is a total customer value, not total cost of ownership in this case. But the TCV, we talk about TCV, and ironically, all of that only happens if your implementation journey is smooth, if customers see value and ROI from your product. Because if I don't, then I'm not going to renew. I mean, I'll probably go and someone else, right? And so
totally.
Yeah, and so it's just amazing how especially in the SaaS world today, the entire journey has to be mapped out and it has to go together in such a collaborative effort, which is where we focus on people, process, and technology. Because without people, process, and technology, you can forget about renewals, you can forget about customer experience, customers referenceability, satisfaction. All of that stuff is a very, very siloed and very spotty kind of effect that you get as a customer.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we started with great people who didn't have process and systems. And then that leads to frustration with your top talent. And then they leave because they're working hard and they're probably going around in a lot of different ways. And there's a lot of stop gaps that doesn't let them be successful. So you got to get all three right. So we started with our people were good. Then I had to work on the process side, which at times, you can make it too tight and that becomes tough for people to work because you have to get the process right and the systems and applications are the enablers.
Yeah.
That is where you get the efficiency out and then you can track and they have a closed loop to say, okay, these processes are resulting or we're still missing out on those kind of things. So all three need to be in place. Even if one is missing, I think people, obviously process system that people are wrong, that's a whole other problem, but all three have to be right. And it's not easy. It's not easy to get it right the first time. It's an iterative process. That's what I found.
Yeah. So I think this is a really interesting conversation and think about for our audience right now who aren't CEOs. If you're hearing Ankur and Mahesh talk, you're hearing them talk about people, process, technology in a ways where it's all really important and it better be figured out. So I challenge our audience really quick. If you're not seeing this in the ways they're talking about it right now, the importance of it, then you might want to raise a flag in your organization saying like, hey, we're not collaborating in the way that these really smart people who've seen a lot are saying we should. So that brings up sort of another subject where think about our audience, say there are bold people, right? There's a services leader in there, there's a bold sales leader, they recognize they need to make change. How should they go about within their organizations bringing folks together to help improve? And we'll keep in the context, in the context of services. And then how should they be tapping on you as CEOs to kind of help drive that forward?
Yeah, Chris, if I can, I think it starts with the CEO, making sure the alignment between the CRO and the head of PS or they are aligned. I think if what happens is the years PS suffered, in my experience, is because the focus was on ARR. And then the PS people raised their hands, and I've lived through it because that's how you were measured and what the marching orders. And it starts at the top. I would, if I'm a CRO or I'm a head of professional services, I think there's a case they need to go make all the things we just talked about. Listen, if you insert me earlier on the process, it's good for sales. It may be a little bit of heartburn in the first deal because I have to ship some, but I will unlock upsell, cross-sells for you, right? Down the line. And that I think needs to start from the top and then come down. But as a PS leader, maybe there are, ways you should go back to your CEO, and if he's ARR driven, and that may be a pressure he's under in, right, to say how I can help you unlock some of that ARR as well. I think those conversations sometimes get missed as well because it gets very tactical. I need to hire 10 more people to support these projects. If you can say I need to hire 10 more people to support the projects to deliver, as we said, that's fine, but it also will help you unlock some things. It'll help you renew your customer base better, your attrition withdrawal. If you can somehow tie it to that and then go deliver on it, I don't see how any CEO says no.
Yeah, I think you both brought up, your ARR driven CEO. That's where you're about total customer value. That's where you're talking about ease of implementation. Then they're going to be renewing and they're going to be upselling and
that's right.
to get through your EBITDA driven as CEO. It's revenue and margins, man.
Yeah. Now in these days, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Rule of 40 is everything, right? Yeah.
Ankur, I've taken a bold step here at Provus, and I've gone one step further. And we were having this conversation a few weeks ago, And we talk about different swim lanes, and a sales lane and a services lane and a product lane and all of that kind of stuff. And which is where, depending on what type of leader you are in, you are either how to cross the lanes and get everything kind of done, or you just stay in your lane and you just continue to suffer if you are not getting alignment or collaboration and stuff like that. And you are right, it starts with the CEO. So what we have done is taken this to the next level, where all of us at the leadership level here have one lane. No more multiple lanes. What that means is, all the way from sales leader all the way to the engineering leader, they all share the same metric, right? So everyone is equally invested to make sure the marketing is successful, sales is successful, delivery is successful, engineering is successful, and all of that. It automatically forces the collaboration to make sure the central focal point for us, which is customer, right? We all are here because of our customer obsession. And
Yeah.
all of that has completely changed and transformed. How we collaborate, how we share numbers, how we share our priorities, everything has changed. And this was an experiment that I was doing here. So far, so good. But I think, when people talk about, hey, either stay in your lane or, cross the lanes, my answer is like, why don't as a CEO, you just create one lane that everyone swims in?
That's right. So in our private equity world, that is how we measure. Actually, it's actually very similar, and it's you're spot on. You figured this out on your own. But now that I've been in this world, the CEO and key part of the management team all measured exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Now there are some functional leaders like the CROs and head of sales that are quota driven, but even in them, we have put some carrots so they think about EBITDA and those kind of things. So you're not out there just totally on your own. But spot on. I think keeping people on 2-3 things brings more team effort, as you're probably realizing, less friction. Everybody's less stressed. Everybody's looking at the same goals. You all talk. Everybody wants to make their plan and cash comp for the year. So spot on. It's how I've learned in the private equity world. They do things as well, and keeps things very simpler. And operationally too, when you're end of the year paying out, looking at bonuses and all that, it makes things a lot easier to track versus having 50 different plans, which I've lived through as well. It's not easy to manage. So it's a great idea, Mahesh. I mean, I'm seeing it work as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Very nice. All right. So we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some technology
Sure.
as we get in here. And I think Mahesh talks about this every now and then. There's tools and then there's systems. Okay, tools can happily be siloed within different organizations and help them be individually productive, whatever it may be. And then there's systems that reach across multiple different departments, things like that. I think we've talked clearly, right? Your services experience, your CEO experience, everything here is kind of giving you a perspective on how do you evaluate systems and evaluate the impact it has across different organizations, and how should you be thinking about implementing new systems from a technology perspective?
Great idea. I think obviously a big difference in tool and a system is you're just using to solve something very small. System for me, whether it's technology or just a process that's systematized, is replication, right? Eliminating, I'm a Six Sigma black belt, as they used to say, eliminating all the noise out of it, and you can count on it replicating over and over and over again, right? That same input comes out, input goes in, you should expect similar output with very little variability in that. So that's the value of a system, right? And as it goes through cross-functionally, it's connecting people, it's connecting data, it's giving you analytics. It's also a closed loop, so you're always improving yourself as the system gets more and more experience and works through. Then you just adjust the different knobs and dials and get it to a very efficient state. So system is the way to go, especially if you have aspirations of this company to grow at a steady pace or an exponential. You need that system. Otherwise, you'll never be able to consistently, predictably deliver results or know what's going on in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course we'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about AI. You talked about the importance of data connecting across
Yeah.
everybody, in which you intentionally or unintentionally just said, like, let's keep getting better and better and better. Now we've got this great sort of mandate coming across organizations everywhere. How are
Yeah.
you approaching AI as a CEO?
Yeah.
And how are you directing your teams? And what are your expectations of your teams when it comes
Fair
to
enough.
strategies?
Hey, listen, everybody's talking about AI, and if you're not, you're dead. But then the people are doing the talking and the people that are delivering it. It's a whole different beast. Back in the day in Aptus, Mahesh and I, we were the technology is one of the first to give a recommendation based on machine learning back then, and we deployed it internally ourselves. It was a lot of fun. So say, okay, if I'm a salesperson, I'm quoting these two SKUs. The machine learning would say, okay, similar deals, other salespeople have quoted where they bought these two products. They also have been able to sell these two add-ons on top. And by the way, if you mix and match it this way, your win rates are better against this competitor. So we kind of got our system to a point where it was giving recommendations. And with the deal desk experience saying, oh, you're up against our Salesforce or the competitor, you're up against Salesforce. Structure the deal this way, discount it this way, configure it this way, that kind of thing. So it was a great learning for me, right? To the power of what it could do, make the salespeople more efficient, because that was our user. In Korbyt's case, we are looking at AI from a content perspective. Okay. So I'm trying to now reach global audiences. We have big 460 out of Fortune 100 customers. If you're Coca-Cola is one, hopefully they don't mind. But let's pick one. They have global workforce, all different time zones, this and that, all having some different variabilities in their cultures. For example, there's a new office being opened in Latin America. Maybe the AI is the customer wants to talk about it, and talk about it in the South American region. The AI could start putting more content around it, not only about office, but with the office, these other restaurants are close by, whatever it may be. Those are the type of things. If there's a certain content that is being consumed, can you push similar type of content out there? And then we have playlist type features where you can just set it and forget it. So the customer's not out there, and you can say at certain times of the day, do this, certain times of the day, do that. Somebody stands in front of the signage screen, the camera, all of a sudden the content changes to a guy is watching versus a lady is watching. I mean, there's a lot of ways, but our side is more on the content side, because content is what delivers the experience on the screen. Otherwise, it's the blank screen, right? Yeah. So those are things we're experimenting. We have had machine learning since 2018, actually, which was on the optics AI camera, and now we're trying to take it much further.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
What about mandating AI for internal productivity?
I haven't looked at that. It's one of my many things. It has been coming up. I mean, there's so much out there right now that I think you can just drop AI into building decks, doing some things for salespeople. We're looking at a few things, but then in the enterprise world, and we're bound by very strong contracts from our customers and so on. So we want to be careful how we go about, and just in case use something and blows up on us. So we have to be a little bit careful. But happy to hear from Mahesh and you if you guys have seen something, and I'm happy. I copy shamelessly. So if something's working from you, I'm gonna copy it.
No, absolutely. I think, like you said, I think there's a lot of people talk about AI, and then there are few people who are actually delivering on AI. And AI is such a broadly used term now that even for a small thing, people say that's AI, right? I mean, so you're absolutely right. But I think, talking about Provus and our customers and the space that we are solving the problem for, Ankur, going back to what you just said and what we did at Aptus, I remember distinctly those use cases that you described. But that was product CPQ. What we do is services CPQ.
Yes.
Exactly the same use cases and more are applicable for us. Now imagine, first of all, 95% of our customers are on Excel spreadsheets, and no AI technologies can work off of Excel spreadsheets. So the first and foremost, as excited as our customers and we get about AI, we have to first of all get customers to acquire and organize the data in a meaningful way. Without that, AI can't do anything.
Got it. Yeah,
right?
makes sense.
But once you do, Imagine the use case. You talked about the win rate, but when it comes to services, Ankur, it's even more complicated because it's not as simple as looking at the deals and thinking of the win rate. It's a multi-dimensional approach, which means if you want to optimize the deal and improve your win rate, at the same time reduce your delivery risk, which is not the concept in product CPQ. We didn't have to
Yeah,
deal
it's
with
not.
that.
Yeah.
And in those cases, you have to look at the scope. You have to look at your work breakdown structures. You have to look at the resources. You have to look at resource mix, resource locations, if it's a multi-year deal, and then look at all of the sold data in the past and how you have executed that. What's the point of selling at 55% margin if I've never realized 55% margin? Right? And so that's where the AI technologies and where our customers gets excited about our advanced analytics and AI is now not only you as a seller working on a complex deal is able to say that, okay, it's not about 55% margin. I'm only going to realize 43% margin. That's information. Second is, hey, by the way, you are looking at this integration phase, you are estimating at 100 hours, but actually on an average, it has taken 550 hours, which is where you are losing the margin. So, change that. Third, oh, the resource mix that you have got, you can optimize that resource mix to keep your top line same, but optimize your margins significantly based on how you have sold and delivered this kind of projects in the past.
Very
This
interesting.
kind of stuff in a multi-year deal with hundreds of services that our customers sell and hundreds of line items in your cart, humanly impossible to optimize in a meaningful way. And that's where we are super excited about bringing in the AI technologies and how it can work off of this structured data
Yeah.
and provide you
Fair,
meaningful.
fair. I mean, I would think as more and more the system gets used, the AI gets smarter too. I mean, the more experience that comes through it. You may recall, Mahesh, we had rolled out a forecasting AI solution at Aptus. And the first 2 quarters, it was close in accurately forecasting where we had, but then it got really good down the line because it's self-learning and behind us at the data scientists and engineers are looking at it and saying, oh, there's another variability here. I need to model it in and so on. Yeah, makes sense.
Absolutely.
But that's the way it's going. Either ways, I think it's something we are also, I'm sure there are a lot of AI applications and certainly would like to look at Provus a little bit down the line, but that will be helpful to us as well, for sure.
Yeah. The other one, which you talked about the generative AI or content, you use the AI technologies for the content.
Yeah.
Something similar, which would resonate very well with you, Ankur, is, let's say if I take your example, right? It's you as a CEO and then your leadership team, which is sales and finance and delivery and
Yes.
whatnot, right? And if all of you guys are looking at and interacting with a system that has all kinds of data, you probably want to see a dashboard or the data differently than your services leader, than your sales leader, than your ops leader and finance leader. And today what happens is for each of these personas, you end up and you go and create lots of different dashboards and dashlets and reports and stuff like that. The way we use AI in that context is now Ankur can go in and stare at a screen and say, show me the last 15 deals with certain attributes, right? Because maybe that's important to you. Show me the deals that I've lost to a competitor. Show me the deals that make up the most of my quarter, right? Finance guy can go in and say, well, show me the deals where the margin is less than this threshold. Imagine now all of a sudden the AI has access to all the data. Nobody has to maintain or create all of these dashboards and reports and all of that stuff. But each of the personas, whatever is important to you at that point in time, you can just interact and get what you need. And it's another beautiful use case which saves a lot of time for CEOs or any of the leaders. Like, well, I don't have the report that I'm looking for. Well, just interact with the system. Talk to
That's right. No doubt. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, you and I and other CEOs, we have making a lot of decisions during the day, and if we have the right data in front of us, I think we can be more sound and more efficient. So appreciate you sharing that, Mitch.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very good. All right, so we're just about to wrap up. We like to leave our audience with some takeaways. So we'll kind of come straight to you, Ankur, and what's one or two things that you think our audience should be aware of as they head into, for someone, the beginning of their next quarter or the remainder of the next year?
Sure. Yeah, I think the software industry has changed. We talked about a little bit how companies evaluate it. So I think we have to think a little differently. PS is a big part of it. Yeah, I learned this from firsthand. So as all the things we talked about, as early on, but at the right point in the process. Too early, you also make things unnecessarily noise. So all of those things I would go fix and at least pay attention to. Technologies like you guys are solving a particular use case, a particular pain point, I think are very powerful. I can personally attest to Mahesh. I've worked with him for many years. He doesn't let anybody down. He ran our customer success function and other functions at Aptus. So he's a big customer advocate. So I mean, I'm sure I can personally recommend anybody looking at Provus and listening here that he will not let you down. And I know that. And yeah, those are the things. It's a new world. Software is evaluating 3 years from now. There'll be other things. It's a very rapidly moving vehicle here as to how we are evaluated every day. But yeah, those are things I really appreciate you guys having me on this call and had fun talking about these topics. Some of the things I'm going to go back and deploy myself as I continue to do so. Yeah.
That's great. Mahesh, anything else?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I'll pick on what Ankur shared through his journey. I think number one is whether you are a PE-led firm or whether you are a VC-led firm, I think you should know your numbers and metrics very, very
That's
clearly.
right.
I think that should be shared and collaborated across all of the organizations. That's going to be key. That's one thing I definitely have seen Ankur do it in action for many years. And the second thing is, I think no matter which, whether you are a sales leader, ops leader, or services leader, I think one way or the other, you are sitting on a data mine. And if you are not getting to learn from your historic data and how you have put the deals together or executed the deals, then you are leaving something behind. That essentially translates into either you are not able to maximize your deals, you are not able to optimize your margins, you are not understanding what are the delivery risks you are taking. So if you are sitting on the data mine, which you already are, and not able to do anything from that historic data, then I think it's time to really up your game and start thinking about next set of technologies.
Wow.
That's great. Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. Ankur, thank you so much for joining us. We couldn't have asked for anything better. Wonderful guest. We're really excited to share this with our audience. And thank you to our audience. Thank you once again for joining the Services Ops podcast. Thank you for listening, subscribing, for sharing, for following. Do all those things if you're not yet. And don't forget to go out there, be bold, drive change, and just best serve your customers.